Alright, we are here to talk about Shelby Oaks, Chris Stuckman's newest horror film and his first feature film. Now, this is something that was always really interesting to me because Shelby Oaks was always a film that I was really intrigued about because of the Kickstarter campaign. I'm pretty sure it is the most popular and most successful Kickstarter of all time, with like $1 million being raised. And also, it's kind of cool to see the behind the scenes stuff of Chris Stuckman with the whole thing of how he done the whole picture with Mike Flanagan being him attached and everything like that. So that was also really cool. But Shelby Oaks follows the pursuit of Riley Brennan, and we follow the lead actress, obviously here played by Camille Sullivan, who plays Mia, who's the sister of this Riley Brennan character. Now, Riley was the host of a YouTube paranormal investigation series. It's really interesting to see this kind of play out because I have a very big suspicion that Shelby Oaks was very heavily inspired from the Blair Witch Project, not just because of the whole paranormal investigation stuff, but just in general. The film breeds so like the Blair Witch Project, especially when we're watching some of the archival footage from this ghost hunter team. And it's really interesting to see how they play it. Like, even when they're going around, like, trying to get explanations of what's going on, because they're going in to investigate this, like, old abandoned theme park is, like, one of the big things in Shelby Oaks. And it's very, very interesting because even the way they frame some of the shots really does hit me with the old school vibe of the Blair Witch Project. You know, at the start of that film, when they're going around interviewing the townsfolk about the Blair Witch, it feels very much inspired by that. Little on the nose at times. I mean, there is some times where the shot is framed exactly like the Blair Witch Project. Like, there's even a woman who's explaining something to do with the investigation while she's holding a child. Literally the exact same thing in the Blair Witch Project. As someone who loves the Blair Witch Project, it was very obviously kind of off the top of my head go, boom, that's the Blair Witch Project. But just in general, this film has been very divisive because there's been a stigma now in the world where, especially with horror films, is that YouTubers going on to make films, and which is ironic because I'm the same. But in general, it's very, very interesting to see that ever since Raka Raka, what they did with Talk to Me, and that's obviously inspired Chris Stuckman to go on to do things as well. Obviously, Raka Raka continued with Bring Her Back, and then obviously will be Talk to Me, which will come out very, very soon, hopefully, as well. But just in general, there's a whole thing now of like YouTubers going on to make their own horror films. It's very inspiring for people who actually want to do that, as like myself, someone who does like movies, who obviously is in film school and wants to go on and make films. Stuff like this is very, very inspiring. Not only that is the fact that Chris Stuckman, a person I grew up watching, like I remember my first ever videos of watching Chris was the Indiana Jones skits he would do, and now he's in a film with Keith David, Derek Mears, and just in general, it's so incredible to see the incredible cast that they've got on board for this one. I mean, like, Derek Mears in here is a staple of horror. You have Predator, Jason Voorhees, and my personal favorite Friday film. Then you have Keith David, who literally has a Hollywood Star of Fame, or Hollywood Star on the Walk of Fame. Like, incredible, incredible lineup of cast. And then all behind the camera, then you have Mike Flanagan, who's easily one of the greatest minds of horror right now. I mean, Doctor Sleep is easily one of the best horror films of the last 20 years. And so in general, it's so cool to see that a YouTuber who I've watched for probably over a decade now at this point, has gone on to make a film with this stacked amount of cast. However, this is where we have to go into what the film is actually like, because you can have the most stacked out cast in your life and still have a pretty disappointing film. I mean, It Chapter 2 is a good example of that. But in general, Shelby Oaks, does it live up to the expectation? In my opinion, I thought it was good. I thought it was good, and that's the best way of putting it. I think it's a nice 3.5-star film. That's the best way of describing it. I think the cast here is strong. The story here is also very strong, and also a very personal story to Chris Stuckman as well, which I can always respect. Just in general, I feel like this film could have needed a little bit more, because I feel like in the end, when you watch it, you're kind of like, oh, that's how they done that. And to me, when I'm watching this film with the knowledge of the fact that Neon actually gave them another bit of money to go and reshoot some things, you can very much tell what they've gone and reshot. And what I'm talking about, if you've seen the film, is that literally last 5-minute section, which 100% I would put my money on it that was a part that was reshot. But in general, I think it's really, really interesting. I mean, Neon has seemed to pick up a load of films now to where they have this specific style about them. And if you've seen Shelby Oaks and you've seen Longlegs specifically, you'll see what I'm getting at here. But Neon, most recent films, those two in particular, I mean, there seems to be a running pattern here with Neon's films to where you watch a film and you think something's going to happen, and then by the halfway point, it's a completely separate film. in terms of the actual like fear factor. So in general, it was very, very interesting to see that. But to me, on a story basis, regardless from anything that we've seen before, I got very heavy Resident Evil 7 vibes from this film. And if you've seen it, of course, you'll know what I mean. But just in general, when you go and delve into this story, that's the vibe I got, was Resident Evil Biohazard, and I loved that vibe. Like, those sections of the film were really, really interesting to me, and I really, really enjoyed that. And just in general, the cinematography, the set design, the locations, this is all shot on location in Ohio, which is where Chris Duckman's from, so that was really, really cool as well. And just in general, seeing everything like that was really, really cool to see that everything was shot on location. It doesn't seem that many green screens were used at all. There was a minimal bit of CGI in there. I think there definitely was pieces. I mean, we'll get onto that now in a bit. But the practical effects in here were also very, very strong. So I got to give them pointers for that. And just in general, I would highly recommend this film. It's a kind of a slow burn, but to me, who obviously I like slow burn films, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very respectable entry into the horror genre. Again, it was original, which is the good thing. I mean, you could obviously say to me that, oh, but you were comparing to Blair Witch and Resident Evil. But from a film point of view, yes, you could say those gives you the vibe of those games and pieces of horror media. But are they the exact same? No, they're very, very nice, and they're very, very, intriguing to see how they could be adapted in this sort of separate story. But I can definitely see why people are definitely annoyed about this film in terms of they're just kind of okay on it. I personally enjoy it. It's a good film, but I do have some issues. To me, this is not spoiler-filled at all, but I do think the hounds in this film, you see them in the trailer as well, to me, they were very confusing. I mean, like, there wasn't really an explanation for them. I thought they were very confusing in terms of what they actually represent. To me as well, I felt like when you got to a specific point in the film towards the third act, when Camille Sullivan's character of Mia goes someplace and comes across this other character, you get the vibe that something's gonna go wrong, and it's interesting to see. I'm trying to go without any spoilers, of course. Her role was very, in my opinion, predictable. This story, again, very dark story as well. I will say that. There is some elements in here that are very touchy subjects. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 scenes in here where you're kind of like, oh, that's touchy. That's a touchy subject. And I liked how they had the balls to go that far. I mean, there's one scene literally towards the midpoint of the film that kind of, or no, it's probably at the start, actually, sorry, where it actually kicks off the title card sequence, which was very, very strong. But just in general, I felt like there was parts of this film that could have been tweaked a little bit more with story-wise in terms of the explanation of the hounds. And I feel like when you're watching this film, you see the hounds in there, you're kind of like, oh, so it's one of these films. And at times, I felt like the hounds kind of looked like, I mean, I don't think they're full CGI. I doubt they are, but at times they did look it. There was one very cool scene with them, though, and that was in the kind of like prison area, and Camille Sullivan's character Mia goes in there and encounters one of them, and it's a very cool scene. Like the lighting, especially, that was one thing that definitely impressed me in this film, was the lighting, and I really enjoyed how they kind of went about that. Just in general, though, how does Chris Stuckman's directorial style suit this film? And to me, Chris Stuckman oozes style. I know that might sound vague, but when you watch his film as Shelby Oaks, you can just tell this guy knows what he's doing. And in terms of the story, yeah, it's a decent story. It's not as in-depth as you kind of want it to be in terms of explanations. Sometimes that's for better or worse, though. But the actual directorial style, the cinematography, the lighting, the gore as well, everything just oozes professionalism. And for someone who's as their first like kind of feature film, I said the same with Raka Raka with Talk to Me, it just oozes professionalism. And I can definitely see Chris Stuckman going on and making a load of more films, and I'm really excited to see what he goes for in his next journey of his career, because he has so much potential, and his story, like the vibes of his storytelling, are dark, they're gritty, they seem personal as well. There's a level of realism in here as well. For as otherworldly as this story actually ends up being, it's a very grounded, realistic take on how someone would interpret this. And the ending as well was something that, I'll be honest, I kind of predicted it towards the end that would happen. But it kind of drags a little bit towards the end to where you're like, oh, so this is where they're going to go. This is what's going to happen. and then it kind of like leaves you on this mark of, oh, okay, so that's what it was. And there's a reveal at the very end where you're kind of like, oh, so it's another one of these films. And I felt like that was a little bit unsatisfying. Now, is it a dark ending? Yes. Do I like dark endings? Of course I do. I love them. But do I think it was justified in this film? I'm like, I don't know. I felt like it was a little bit too easy to get to that conclusion. But in general, I really enjoyed this film. As much as I think it's okay and there's problems, it's a very respectable film, and I think there's a lot to like about it. The shot design, the shot set list, and everything, all those key elements of a horror film are there, and they're enjoyable. Now, do I think that everyone will enjoy this film? No, it doesn't seem. I can sound like a 55 on Rotten Tomatoes. However, never trust Rotten Tomatoes or never trust any reviews other than going to see the film yourself. Just, I don't care. You have to see the film for yourself. But the main thing I would say is you will have to see this in the right setting. I feel like seeing this in a theater is 10 times the better experience than watching it at home, and I definitely feel like that definitely enhanced my experience. But Shelby Oaks was a film that I really enjoyed. It was good. It wasn't like this masterpiece of a film. Was it as good as Talk to Me? In my opinion, no, but they're two completely separate genres of horror, subgenres of horror, should I say, but both very, very professional takes from first-time filmmakers. And if you're a filmmaker who is doing YouTube or vice versa, a YouTuber who wants to be a filmmaker, these are the people that you need to look up to, because there is key elements of these filmmakers that oozes professionalism, and to me, it's just it's someone who I've idolized for years with Chris Duckman, and seeing his film on the big screen, I'm like, holy hell, like, it gives me motivation to go make my films. You know, it gives me more motivation than ever, really, is the best way of explaining it. I said the same with Talk to Me. But Chris Duckman's style is just beautiful. I love his directorial style, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he has in the future. I would maybe go into a spoiler review if y'all want me to do that. I will happily do that. But yeah, definitely go check out Shelby Oaks. It's a very gritty and grounded story with a very otherworldly effect towards the end that is very, very nice. The payoff is a bit out there, but I didn't mind it. And to me, as someone who obviously adores long legs, it would be weird if I didn't like this film all of a sudden. But in general, I really enjoyed Shelby Oaks. It's a solid 3.5 out of 5 for me on Letterboxd, and I'm just very, very happy with how it turned out for a directorial debut, Chris Duckman. I'm hoping that he gets more opportunities like this in the future to work with Mike Flanagan, because I think that those two have a very similar style. I mean, even Chris has come out in interviews and said that it was almost like an apprenticeship with him and Mike Flanagan. I mean, I wish I could do that. But just in general, I'm very, very excited to see what the next film holds for Chris Duckman. Is it going to be another few years till that happens? Who knows? I'm just really hoping he gets straight back onto the screen. Not anything to do with like Osgood Perkins now, because he's gotten 4 films in 2 years, and we have a Keeper review coming soon. But yeah, just in general, I hope Chris Duckman comes back onto the big screen with a blast, and I just can't wait to see what he has in store for us. But yeah, that's my review of Shelby Oaks. It is a very good film. I would highly recommend it. Go and check it out. It is a slow burn, but if you like those slow atmospheric horrors, you'll definitely enjoy it. But thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you did enjoy. If you like anything to do with movies, go and smash that subscribe button down below. Make sure to check out my own short films as well. I'm slowly trying to evolve my own filmmaking technique, so if you have any advice, go check out my 2 short films. I have another short film dropping in December, which is a documentary, but I'm trying to expand my horizons. But yeah, I'd really appreciate all the support on those as well. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you'll have the most fantastic day, and as always, stay safe and peace.